Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. A couple of things I want to talk to you about this week. The first subject is e-grocery. And listen, it continues to surprise me, not amaze me, but surprise me, that there are still people in the supermarket industry who believe that the whole notion of e-commerce is somehow going to pass them by. That, yeah, it'll get a little bit of market share, but ultimately people will not want to buy fresh food online. Now, I think this is a mistake, not least of which is I think just generationally, millennials are going to be more inclined to buy things online, including fresh food, because they're used to buying everything online. But let's talk about some of the big players in the area. Listen, you got Amazon, right? Clearly the big kahuna of e-commerce in general, and they have clearly made a decision that they want to, really have a much bigger part of their business be food in general and fresh food in particular. And they're spending a lot of money on this. And listen, for them, it's a strategic decision. This is a company that wants to create an ecosystem in which it is the first best place for shoppers to buy pretty much anything. You can't ignore food if that's your strategy, because food is the thing people shop for the most. You've got to have food as a major part of your strategic operations. And the other thing is, let's not forget, their whole thing is we don't want to sell people stuff. We want to make it easy for people to buy stuff. Food has got to be a part of that if it's going to be sustainable long term. Then you got Walmart. Okay, so you got Amazon here with that attitude. Then you have Walmart over here. And listen, they're clearly spending a ton of money, whether it's acquiring Jet or going through an executive reshuffle. They have clearly decided that they have got to do battle in this area. And their decision is they're going to try and make sure that their stores are the differential advantage that they have over Amazon. And they just want to sell more stuff. And listen, Amazon wants to make it easier for people to buy stuff. Walmart wants to sell people more stuff. The thing is, both may be perfectly valid ways to come at the marketplace. There may well be room for both. There's no reason to think it won't. They may have very different kinds of customers, but they're out there and they're doing battle. Then at the same time, you've got companies like Kroger, right? And Kroger's clearly decided that it's going to embrace the e-commerce and digital side of its business. There are other companies out there that are doing the same thing, and they're over here. So you got Amazon here, and you got Walmart here, and you got all these other companies over here. And they are in some ways existing in different universes, believing they have different kinds of advantages. Now, there's a window in between these three universes, if you will, where other companies can operate. They can find differential advantages. They can distinguish themselves. But I think the window is only going to be open and that big for a relatively short period of time. That inevitably, as those three universes grow, the space in between them is going to get smaller. And I think the companies out there that are ignoring this opportunity are making a mistake. They need to find ways to distinguish themselves, not just with brick and mortar stores, because that continues to be important, but also find ways to come at the e-commerce business in a way that makes sense and plays to their advantages. And I think they have to steal some stuff from Walmart. They have to figure out how to make their brick and mortar stores, and that last mile work for them. I think they have to look at Amazon and say, how are we going to compete with the whole replenishment thing that Amazon has figured out lots of different ways to come at, to take people out of the market on a vast array of products. I'd be looking at that area, but I think they have to move fairly quickly, because I do think that window is shrinking. And hey, listen, in a lot of ways, I've just made that my mission here on Morning Newsbeat. I'm going to talk about this in as many different ways as I can to cement for these companies that are still lagging behind, that are not embracing this, that are not being aggressive and ambitious about this, to understand that time is relatively short. It's something they have to embrace. The other thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk very briefly about last weekend's women's marches. Listen, I'm not talking about the politics of it. I do not want to get into the politics of it, because all that will do is kind of set two sides and get everybody pretty angry. But I want to talk about some basic information about the marches that I think businesses have to keep in mind. Now, let's keep in mind, okay, they took place in the U.S., they took place around the world. There were hundreds of these marches, and there were millions and millions of people who participated in them. But for the purpose of this discussion, again, ignore the politics. Keep one thing in mind. Actually, keep one name in mind. Teresa Shook. Teresa Shook was a woman who, in Hawaii, the day after Election Day, decided she was going to create an event. She posted it on Facebook and invited some friends. And she said, let's go to Washington and protest the day after Inauguration Day. Look what happened. Look at the millions of people who got involved. Look how it took on a life of its own. There were a lot of different organizations that kind of embraced it. It just grew from there, but it started from one Facebook posting. Now listen, that kind of passion, it's not easy necessarily to harness that kind of passion, but it does take place. It can affect people in the political realm, in the religious realm, in the cultural realm, and in the business realm. And you have to be aware that your customers may feel as passionately about something that you do or you don't do, and they are going to be taking to Facebook. They are going to be taking to social media. They're going to be tweeting. We all know what the tweeting is, apparently the currency of the realm when it comes to information these days. You have to understand that the power that drove those millions of people can also be applied to what you may do. And you have to be aware of what's going on. You have to be relevant in those eyes, because passions can ignite for you, but they also can ignite against you. And that's something you have to keep in mind. Anyway, that is what is on my mind this Thursday morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.